everybody. Hey. It's Naomi Aidoo here of naomiaidoo.com. Welcome to Say It. So excited to be sharing this live training with you. I'm just going to check that we're on the right page and everything while you guys are logging on. If you're watching on the replay, say hi. If you're watching live, say hi. Let me know how you're doing today. And let's do this. I'm just making sure that we are all good, that we're in the right place, and that everything is indeed going to plan, which it looks as though it is. Super excited to be sharing this, guys. It feels like I haven't done a live stream on this page, like directly onto this page at least, forever. So glad to be here, glad to be doing it. Say It, this free live training, which I have shared for maybe the past 36 hours. So I haven't really given a huge amount of notice that it's even happening, but I couldn't wait. And I'm really excited to basically help you guys to communicate what it is that you want to say in the way it is that you want to say it, so that people start resonating with your message, so that what it is that you want to say. So I'm trying to sort out my necklace here. So that what it is that you want to say connects with the people that you are trying to connect with in a way that they can hear. More than that, so that you can show up and own who you are, so that you can show up and own what it is that you are trying to communicate without fear of judgment, without worry about whether or not, who are you to say that, or, any of those things. Instead, it's totally about you just owning your message, owning what it is that you're trying to say. So if you are watching live, say hello. If you are watching on the replay, say hello. Just, let me know that you're here. Comments and everything that you want to sort of say and let me know as we go through this are very welcome, as are questions, as are bits of feedback, as are your thoughts and reflections on this whole topic of what it means to say it. I'm looking forward to hearing everything that you guys have got to say. So the reason that this training is entitled Say It is quite simply because of what it takes for people to say what it is that they are meant to be saying, right? We can have this notion where people say, preach, or there's even that kind of statement where someone puts out like a poignant quote or statement, and then someone else says something like, say it louder for the people at the back. And there's this emphasis, right, on what it means for people to speak up. There's a celebration, if you like, of people that speak up, share their truth, own who they are, and literally walk in what it is that they've been called to do in the world. And so when we think about this whole idea of say it louder for the people in the back, preach, all of these sort of things, the reality for ourselves as we are here just showing up in the online space in the way that we're showing up in the online space can sometimes be a little bit harder than, just the motivational message. Sometimes it can be a little bit more like, I feel like even though those statements resonate with me, I'm not sure how readily I can, put through that motivational message, how readily I can, say it in the way that I want to say it. I mean, I can say something online, I can post something, but actually what I really want to say is, and then fill in the blank here. And so I guess this training, this Say It free training in here is about bridging the gap between what so strongly resonates with us, the content that we absorb, the content that we listen to, the content that we watch, and how we can actually become those messengers and not simply, the cheerleaders, if you like. Not that there's anything wrong with being the cheerleaders of those messengers, I am too, but how we can also become the people that are sharing the things that we so strongly resonate with when we read them and when we hear them and when we watch them. And so that's what we're looking at today. So if, hey Stephen, I'm well, thank you. I hope that you're good. Thanks for jumping on. So what if you're not familiar with kind of who I am and what I do and all of that good stuff, then just by way of very brief introduction, my name is Naomi Aidoo of naomiaidoo.com. I am a business coach and mindset coach for faith-first female leaders, entrepreneurs and creatives. Hey Nikki, thanks for jumping on, and hey Jen, thanks so much for the heart. I support these women in overcoming limiting beliefs, getting out what it is that they need to get out in the way that they want to get it out, and support them in essentially building, scaling and growing their businesses in a way that is true to them. Not in a way that is cookie cutter, not in a way that is, do it like this and then that will be what wins, but in a way that means that you are being who you're meant to be. You are being who you truly are. And so that is, by way of brief introduction, I suppose it also goes, I should just also jump in and say that I am a wife to my husband, James, who I've been married to for 6.5 years, and mum to a baby boy called Micah, who is 8 months old. And so we live in southeast London. So that is me. I'd love to know who you are. If I've not met you before, feel free to drop that in the comments. But I want to dive into the content. So, say it. We're looking at the 3 steps to owning what you want to say, how you want to say it, to whom you want to say it to, in a way that it actually resonates. And really pleasantly and pleasingly for me, as I was writing this content, it's actually, an A, B, C, which is easy to remember. The only thing is that it's not in order of A, B, C. It's actually B, C, A. So we're going to have to go with it. I mean, the part of me, the teacher in me, I used to be a high school teacher. The teacher in me would love for the A, B, C to follow suit, but there we have it. So we actually start with B, and B is belief. So what's it going to take for you to say it, for you to show up and say what you want to say in the way that you want to say it? Number 1 is belief. Now, I don't know whether you've ever heard of that quote, but there's that statement that says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. You saying what you really want to say starts as an inside job. I can't stress that enough. So if you are there, like before any of this begins, and you're thinking, I want to put something out online, wherever you are, whether you're starting, scaling, growing a business, wherever you are, and you're thinking, I want to put something out there, I want to put this and fill in the blank of what this might be for you. Whether you think that you will succeed, and you can define what success is, because success is what success is for you, whether that is making sales, whether that is people resonate with your message, whether that is that, people hate what it is that you're saying because you've really been that potent, whether it is that people start to follow you, whatever success looks like for you, whether you believe, whether you think you can or you think that you can't, will be where all of this starts. So if you automatically are going to put something out there and you're kind of like, this is not going to click and I don't think anyone cares, guess what? That's going to be the truth. Because this is about an inside job first. And so first things first, in this belief kind of pattern, check your triggers. Who are you triggered by and in what way? And the reason I say that is because if you are scrolling through Instagram, you're on your socials, you're doing the different things that you're trying to do, and you're saying things like, oh, it's all right for them. You're like, oh, well, they can say that because look at them, or look at their following, but they live here, or they look this particular way, or whatever it might be. Check your triggers. Nikki says, saying what you truly want to say starts with a belief. Thank you so much for summarizing the point. Really appreciate it, Nikki. Belief. Yes. So check your triggers, because quite often, right, if you are triggered by what someone's doing, there's a small chance, and quite often a bigger chance than that it's because you want some of what it is that they're doing. You want some of that, and so you are almost excusing yourself from operating in that same way by essentially saying that it won't be able to happen for you in the same way that it's happened for this person that you are triggered by. So number one is check your triggers. Like, actually, belief starts there, and then beyond that, it actually starts with being honest with yourself. Thank you for the hearts, I really appreciate it. So being honest with yourself and the desires of your heart. Now, as I said at the beginning, I'm a Christian, and I typically work with Christian women, and the Bible talks about the fact that God gives us God gives us the desires that are in our heart, and he will often grant us the desires of our heart. But the desires that are in our hearts, sometimes, yes, we might have to check, is it some kind of random selfish desire that's there for no reason or whatever? But typically, actually, is it an inherently selfish desire? Ideally not. And so when you're seeing what someone's doing, and thank you so much for scribing, Nikki. I'm seeing you scribing the notes. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that it's helpful for you as well. When you see like what people are doing and you're thinking, actually, I kind of want that. Are you being honest with yourself about the desires of your heart? Not like kind of slyly, judging them behind closed doors and saying, oh, I would never do it like that. I can't believe they did it like that. Like, check yourself. Is that actually something that you want to do? And are you instead kind of feeling restricted because you're showing up in a way that you think you should show up? And so because someone else is having the audacity show up in the way that they want to show up, in a way they're feeling led and called to show up, and you're only showing up in a way that you feel like you should show up, actually you're being triggered by them. So actually be real about the desires of your heart and be real about your triggers. And you might think to yourself, well, why on earth does any of this matter? Because we're talking about messaging. We're talking about saying what we want to say in the way that we want to say it. Well, if you are subconsciously thinking that something... If you're subconsciously thinking something which totally contradicts what you're saying, how are you ever going to be able to fully get yourself behind it? If you're in this place where you're saying one thing, and then in your mind you're kind of thinking about the other thing that you saw or read or did or whatever, and what you're actually saying doesn't look like that thing, you're actually contradicting yourself, how are you ever going to be able to get your belief behind the thing that you're actually putting out into the world? So once your triggers have been checked and your actual desires have been uncovered, you're in this place where there's a blank slate, and you can begin to operate in a place where you're like, I'm just going to be honest with myself. I'm just going to be honest with my beliefs about what it is that I want to put out into the world without like judging myself. That's another thing. We talk about fear of judgment. How often is the fear of judgment when you're putting your work out into the world a fear of you actually judging yourself, right? So let's think about the idea that you may well just be your biggest critic. When you've got that belief and you've got that blank slate in place, then that belief actually breeds authenticity. And when you're putting out what you can 100% support, then you can be authentic about it. You can be in this place where you're like, there's nothing to hide. I'm not hiding behind any sort of lens or veil or curtain or whatever anymore. I'm being completely who I am. And so there's no judgment anymore. There's a blank slate. I've got that belief in place, and then authenticity comes to the surface. Nikki says, yes, that is so true. I'm as authentic as I know how to be at this point with my message. And I have no hang-ups after sharing the message. Best feeling ever. Exactly, there we go. And Janine's jumped on as well. Hey, Janine, thanks so much for being here live. Lovely, really glad to have you on. So when we are in that place of firmly rooted belief, it then breeds this authenticity that we can connect with people with. Because I know that you know it because of the people that you follow, the people that you subscribe to or watch or read. When you're being authentic and you're connecting with people, then people are going to be like, okay, this is someone, like me. Janine says, just a quick hello as I'm in the midst of a power cut. Oh no, I hope it sorts itself out. Thanks for jumping on, albeit briefly. I'm glad that you were here. And Nikki says, belief breeds authenticity. I'm glad that quote resonated with you. So when you're like literally watching people and you can get this place where you're like, oh, like, I get them. They're like me. Like, they're not some kind of elitist person on this random pedestal that I've decided to put them on. Like, they're like me. They get it. Then it connects with people. Quite often, oh, hey, Mel, thanks for jumping on. I'm glad that you were able to make it and glad that you're here. It connects with people. Authenticity is this thing, right, where actually people are not stupid. There's so many like marketers, social media people and whatever out there, like when they're really salesy and things like that say things like, oh, you know, people are stupid. Like, and I just think it's such a really weird way to talk about people that you want to connect with. I mean, like, how awful is that? To sort of have this suggestion that people are kind of gullible, so to speak. I don't believe that at all. I believe that people are hugely intelligent and they're not going to buy into some weird, sleazy, salesy something without any authenticity, belief, or backbone behind it. And so let's remind ourselves about the whole idea that belief, and we've got to how we get to that place of belief, breeding authenticity, and then literally we're able to just own who it is that we are, show up in the way that we want to do without like any baggage. Now, when I talk about belief, you might think to yourself, oh, but I mean, on paper, I might want to believe that I can be this, you know, masterful messenger. I can be this person that puts something out in this particular way, and on paper I want to believe that that's who I can be, but actually when it comes down to it, I find myself shrinking back. I find myself not saying all of what it is that I want to say. What I will say about that is that belief can grow in stages. So don't put yourself out there saying this stuff like, you know, I've got this huge program and I'm putting it out there and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and this is me and this is who I am now and no one can stop me, and then find yourself actually not fully subscribing to that. I've just seen on my laptop that you've shared this, Mel. Thanks so much for sharing. Guys, if you feel like this will resonate with your audiences, then do please share as well. Appreciate it, Mel. So don't put this thing out there where you're this massive grandiose goal where you're kind of like, I can't even get myself behind this, but this is me, this is what I'm doing, and all of this kind of stuff. Allow belief to grow in stages. So if for right now you believe that you can put yourself out there in such a way because there's this particular thing that you want to say, and you wholeheartedly believe in it, and you wholeheartedly know that you sharing this is you being your most authentic self, then do that. Start there, and then you move to the next thing, and then you move to the next thing. This is the same with like your price points of your programs. This is the same with whatever you might do in the online space. Don't suddenly put yourself in this weird box where you're like, oh, I can't, because I've got this massive goal, like, that I want to achieve in 10 years time, but I'm not there yet, I might as well not bother. No. Like, allow for your faith to increase. Pray that God will increase your faith in what it is that, in you catching up essentially with what it is that you've been called to do in your heart and in your head. And Nikki saying, yes, belief can grow in stages. Love that resonates. Thank you again for your participation and your comments, Nikki. I really appreciate it. Like, don't be in this place of like doubting, yourself. Like, allow yourself to kind of get there. When I first started in the online space in 2011 was when I first started. When I first sold something at the end of 2016, it was a course and it was like £30 from what I can remember. And I did the most. I was in this group, I was going for it. I was like literally, because realistically it wasn't, and there was lots that I needed to learn about boundaries and things like that, but it wasn't about the money for me. So, maybe I had this idea that later down the line I wanted to charge a particular thing or, reach a particular amount of people or whatever it might have been. But like, actually, I couldn't get behind that then. I couldn't get behind the goals that I might set for myself now, back at the end of 2016. But that didn't mean that I shouldn't start, because I couldn't allow my faith to get behind what I now want to get behind, you know? So what is it right now that you can get behind? Get behind that and put it out there. Like this course that I put out there, you know, it wasn't like something that was like wildly profitable, so to speak, but it was something which allowed me to raise that belief and confidence level, actually, because I was like, you know what, this resonates, this works, this connects, this is empowering and supporting people, this is shifting people. It gave me license to think to myself, actually, next time, maybe I can do it like this, maybe I can do it like that. So allow for belief to grow with you. Work towards a desired goal. And so belief recap, I know we're in belief for a while, but a belief recap is check your triggers, number one. Be honest with yourself. Say, charge, and do what you can get behind with conviction, and then practice increasing your faith for whatever is beyond that, okay? So that's point number one, belief. If you've jumped in like a little bit later, thanks, Naomi, for the hearts, and thanks for being here. Glad to have you on. Lovely. So that's belief, number one. And remember I said it's ABC, although it's actually BCA. Number two is consistency. So consistency is our C, and consistency and online business go hand in hand for a number of different reasons, okay? Consistency in your messaging, consistency in your schedule, consistency in how you're saying what you want to say, consistency in all manner of things takes place when it comes to online business. And so let's break down consistency and talk about exactly what it is that means. How often do you see people changing their messaging, changing their offerings, changing their business model every 5 minutes? Now, I'm not talking about sharing different programs, because the likelihood is that different programs will support a variation of the same type of person, for example. I'm not talking about different posts, because obviously you've got to continue to post and share different things. But the likelihood is there'll be a kind of through line, right? There'll be a through line. At least you'd hope that there would be a through line, because that's what consistency is. But how often do you see people say, you know, I'm actually supporting people in this, and then a week later, they're like, actually, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm supporting people in this. So the reason that we start with belief is because I think that the lack of consistency can be rooted in a lack of self-belief. Because if we have got to ourselves to a place, that's why B is the first one, belief. If we've got ourselves to a place where we're like, yes, this is a message I can get behind. This is a goal I can get behind. This is an action I can get behind. This is me. I know that I can talk about this and say this no matter what. Then you will be consistent, because you will continually have things to say about it. You'll be this place where you're like, do you know what? I love talking about this stuff. I can't imagine not talking about this particular subject or this particular topic. So you can be consistent. If you have a lack of belief in what it is that you're doing, then you'll kind of say something, no one will like it or comment on it or buy it or subscribe to whatever, and then you'll say, oh, do you know what, this obviously isn't the right thing, after like 10 minutes. And when I say 10 minutes, maybe I mean a month or whatever. I'm, you know, being a little bit facetious, but you get what I mean. Like, you after like a week, you're like, oh, well, no one cared, because you put like one post out or whatever, and then it's like, oh, forget it, I'm shutting the whole thing down. No. If the belief is firmly rooted and plugged there, then actually you can be consistent. Nikki's saying consistency has started to go from a weakness to a strength for me. I love it. 2 for 2. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So good. So when the belief is solidified, and now you're there with the consistency piece, your literal job is to stay the course. And what that means is being consistent even when you're not sure whether anyone's listening, because the reality is they nearly always are. Now, I'm not saying, you know, keep doing something for like 20 years, never seeing anyone ever suggest any sense of this being something that they want to hear. that might be when you want to start tweaking things or asking questions or things like that. That's fine. But what I am talking about is, don't really firmly feel like you're being called and led to do something, and then after a week perhaps of, you know, not necessarily seeing the results that you've been hoping to see, allow for your own belief and therefore your own consistency to sink to nothing, and you kind of be in this place of like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. Give yourself and give your message a fair chance. Don't give up before the finish line, because actually, what have you got to lose by continuing, even if you weren't to get the results, which I see as highly improbable. But even if you weren't to get the results, what have you got to lose? Now, could it be that you might be a little bit embarrassed if you weren't to get the results? Yeah, maybe. But quite often, especially when people are starting, especially when people maybe are not in business full time, but they've got a part-time job, for example. Mel said that is so true. Often when I feel like giving up is when I sign a client. Exactly, and that's because you feel like giving up, but you allow yourself to believe that what it is that you're doing is good, and you therefore stay the course. You're consistent, and then voila, people come in and to work with you. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Nikki's saying, now that you have belief and consistency, stay the course. Yes, that is the point. You have to get yourself to this place where you're like, I know what it is that I want to say. I am giving myself and my message a chance. And when I was talking about this whole idea of what you've got to lose, quite often if you're starting in business, perhaps you've still got another job that you're working alongside it. Perhaps this isn't your full-time thing yet. And people are like, well, you know, no one signed up. And so, you know, what's the point? Like, I didn't make any money off of this particular thing, and you know, downward spiral. Number one, remember the first point is belief. If you, like, your words genuinely do have power. If you want to continue to speak over yourself the fact that nothing works out for you and everything is awful and, you know, what's the point, then just remind yourself of what it is that you're actually saying about yourself. First and foremost, this was the first point. But also ask yourself, well, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Because if, I know at the beginning, so right now my business runs full time. I'm in my business full time. But when I was working a part-time job, when I first started at the end of 2016, well, I still had my income coming in from my part-time job. So any income that came in from my business at the time was extra. And so it was like almost like a bonus. So actually, if nothing had worked out right then at the beginning, and by God's grace it did, but if nothing had worked out at the beginning, then what really did I have to lose, apart from perhaps feeling a little bit embarrassed that I said I was going to put this like thing out there, start off on this venture, and then kind of, you know, it didn't quite work out. Okay, fine. Like, we can all get over that. But imagine if things go from strength to strength. You are probably not necessarily just starting. Perhaps you're in a place now where you're actually scaling and you're moving to the next level. What have you got to lose by putting your prices up, by putting this particular thing out there in a different type of a way? You know, what have you actually, ask yourself what you've got to lose. You know, decide what you're going to put out into the world and when, and, you know, do it. And that's that kind of last piece with consistency, like consistency with your message and consistency with yourself, but also consistency with your schedule, right? Like consistency. If you're saying to someone, you know, once a week I will do this, even if perhaps at first you can only commit to once a month, whatever it might be, then do that thing and stick to it. Because one, for yourself, it will breed discipline because you're allowing yourself to be disciplined and committed to something that you said you're going to do. And number two, for others, it will breed know, like, and trust. Because people need to have that know, like, and trust factor around them in order to be able to do what it is that, you know, they that you're sort of suggesting that they do. Like, people need to know who you are. They need to like you. Like, it needs to resonate with them, and they need to trust you. They need to think, do you know what, she said that she's going to do this, and I actually believe that she'll do it. And so the recap of consistency is stay the course, count the cost, as in, you know, realistically, what's the worst that can happen? And then decide on your schedule and stick to it. Like, hold fast to the thing that is that you're saying you want to do, and be real with it. Be real with it. Put yourself out there in that particular way. So remember, we said there were 3 points with this Say It training. There was A, B, C, and it was actually B, C, and so now we're at A. And the A is authority. In order to own what you want to say in the way you want to say it, you've got to walk in your authority. Now, I would say, you know, this is like God-given authority. Like, you being a daughter of God means that you've got more authority than you even know what to do with already. But sometimes we can have a hard time kind of assuming and understanding that. But beyond that, in a business capacity, when we're talking about what it means, like, why should people listen to you on this topic? Why should people listen to you? Now, when that question is asked, you might find yourself almost asking back, like, you're right, Naomi, like, why should someone listen to me? They shouldn't. Oh, and you know, spiral. Remember, point number 1 was belief. Belief has to be the through line. Don't allow that spiral to even take place. When I say why should someone listen to you, I'm not only talking about credentials. I only maybe a couple of years into my coaching journey was qualified in a particular leadership development program. Prior to that, actually, it was me knowing that I was called to this work, and then me recognizing a couple of things, you know, that I'd been coaching in a non-formal way for a while. I'd been a high school teacher for 7 years. There were things that allowed for me to recognize, do you know what? This is why people should listen to me. I'm good at this particular thing. It's okay, by the way, to remind yourself. In fact, it's very important to remind yourself of the things that you're good at, to remind yourself of the things that actually, you know, work for you. Because otherwise, you know, how are you going to convince anyone else that it's true? You don't need to be convincing people. You just need to walk in that authority that's already yours. So I'm not talking about just credentials. I'm talking about you just owning you. When authority kind of steps up, then so does authenticity. And remember what I said before about authenticity being what people want and need. When you remind yourself of who you are, then you can walk as your authentic self, because you're not going to try to be someone that you're not. When I say remind yourself of who you are, I don't suddenly mean that you get to this place where you're showing off to the whole world. Actually, you're just being you, and you just being you will remind people that they can just be them. You only need to be half a step ahead of the person that you're trying to support in order for them to be able to recognize, oh yeah, I can do this. Oh yeah, I can do that. And one of the biggest ways in which, you know, people will recognize your authority is by what it is that your messaging, that your work, that what it is that you say and do does for them. That's a lot of the way in which people will recognize your authority. And so ask yourself, how do you want to leave, or how do you leave your current clients and customers feeling? When you can empower and come alongside someone, you can help them to realize that what they want is possible for them. Then you're operating in your authority, and you're enabling them to operate in theirs. And by doing that, that is authority, that is authenticity, that is belief, that is consistency, that is everything full circle. But you've got to allow for your message, for what it is that you want to say, to be something which brings people up. You know, if you're going to call someone out, make sure you're calling someone out as you're calling them up. Don't call them out to bring them down. Call them out to call them up and say, hey, you know what? You can do better. I know that because this is what I know of who you are and what you're capable of and what's possible for you. Let's go. Call people up, not just out. And that when you do that with your messaging, that's you genuinely walking in the authority that is yours, as opposed to kind of just like this wishy-washy sense of, you know, not really being sure about who you are and what you're doing. Authority doesn't automatically just equal you being this untouchable guru. That's not what I mean by authenticity, but it does require for you to go first. Because like Nikki's just shared with this other quote, you being you will allow others to be them, which is what I said before. When you go first, some people might have potentially felt a little bit uncertain about doing the same thing that you're doing. But when you go first, you remind people, actually, yeah, I can take that next step. I can move forward in that particular direction, in that particular way. Be willing to go first. Where can you take the lead in your messaging today? And when you do so, you're reminding people about what's possible. And so that authority recap is remember who you are, honor your authenticity, and allow yourself to recognize that authority empowers people to be who it is that they are. So point number 1, belief, and our recap for belief was, as I just get my notes together, our recap for belief was check your triggers, be honest with yourself, say, charge, do what it is that you can get behind, and then, you know, allow room for practicing for your faith to increase to whatever's beyond that, for the goals that are beyond that. Then point number 2 was consistency, and I'll recap on consistency was to stay the course, was to count the cost, and was to decide on your schedule, you know, and commit to it. And then authority is our point number 3, and our authority recap was to remember who you are. That's key. Honor your authenticity and remind yourself that authority empowers people to show up and be the best version of themselves as you show up and be the best version of yourself. And so that is Say It. And thank you so much for those of you that have stuck with me for the 30 minutes or so of the training. I'd love to hear your takeaways, your ahas. I'd love for you to share some messaging which kind of embodies this belief, consistency, and authority, and, you know, share it with me. I'd love to be able to see it, read it, hear it, whatever it might be. And before I go, I'd love to also share with you a very, very exciting announcement indeed, which is going to be the pinned comment in this live stream. I'll put it in there now. So it is here. My brand new program, Masterful Messenger, has arrived. It's a 6-week coaching program, which is going to basically enable you to walk in this. It's going to deep dive. You might have thought to yourself, I want to have this belief, I want to have this consistency, I want to have this authority. We're going to go through it together for 6 weeks. There's the modules are actually based on that A, B, and C that I just went through with you. So we spend 2 weeks in each of those areas. And Masterful Messenger is the art of connecting your why with your words in online business. It's about you being, you know, who it is that you actually are, and doing what it is that you actually want to do, saying what it is that you actually want to say, and allowing for that to be something which really and truly resonates. So it's at naomiaidoo.com/masterful messenger. And it's 6 weeks of coaching with me, of training videos, of Q&A, of private Facebook community. And the reason that I've created this is because so often with my clients and with people that follow me, they talk about the fact that they've got something they want to say, they've got something that they want to communicate, but they're like, I don't know quite how to get it out there in the way that I want to say it. I don't really know why this particular thing isn't sticking with the people that I want to, or it might be, I don't really know how to charge for this particular thing because it seems like a non-tangible type thing. If you're a creative, if you're a messenger of some sort, then Masterful Messenger is for you. As I said, it's at naomiaidoo.com/masterful messenger. And it's there in the comments. The link is in the comments, but you can just reach out and ask me any questions that you want to ask. But literally, the whole idea is that it's literally about you connecting who you are with the words that you want to communicate in the online space in a way where it just resonates, in a way where it clicks, in a way where it's not now up for kind of, you know, a guessing game where you're like, what was I meant to kind of say? What did that mean again? And I'm just seeing whether I can pin the comment. Sorry guys, but it doesn't look like I can. It's in the comments anyway at naomiaidoo.com/masterful messenger. There are bonuses to be had by signing up sooner rather than later. If you sign up before February is out, which is Saturday, if you sign up before the end of Saturday, then you will get a day of Voxer with me, which means that we can connect via Voxer and we can have a whole day of coaching and connecting around your messaging. You can send me examples of what you're doing right now. I can give you examples of kind of things that you might want to tweak, say differently. I'll ask you questions about who it is that you're trying to relate to and why, and we can kind of dive a bit deeper before the program even begins. There are other bonuses that you'll see over on the page which expire every week. And so each week that you leave it a little later, the price will stay the same. It's not an early bird price thing, but each week that you leave it a little later to join, you'll lose out on one of the bonuses, and they're all at the bottom of the page. You'll find them there. So it's naomiaidoo.com/masterful messenger. It's the art of connecting your why with your words for online business. It's a 6-week live group coaching program where you have direct access to me as well as a like-minded community of people. The spots are limited due to the fact that I will be reviewing your messaging. I will be connecting with you on that sort of one-on-one level within the group. And so with that in mind, I can't take everyone on. And so if you want to join sooner rather than later and just get yourself there. If you know that there are other people also that will resonate with this, then do please share it with them. Right, any comments and questions before I sign off? Nikki has said, this is so good. This year I became a disruptor. I teach parents how to disrupt the status quo of the public school system so that their children can succeed inside and outside of the classroom. #authentic. Love that, Nikki. Thanks so much for sharing. Love that you're like owning your authentic message and you are indeed saying it. Let's all be these messengers, masterful messengers that are saying what we want to say in the way that we want to say it so that it resonates with the people that we genuinely want to say it to and connect with. So if there are no more questions, and I'll be here for another minute just in case there are, if there are no more questions, I will go, but I will remind you that the first bonus to get a day of one-on-one access to me expires at the end of close of play Saturday. And you can find out all of the information. Feel free to drop me a message, anything else that you want to share, by heading to naomiaidoo.com/masterful messenger. And let's do this together. Let's look at the belief, let's look at the consistency, and let's look at the authority piece, and let's move forward together. Thank you so much for being here with me live. Thank you so much to if you're watching on the replay. So glad that you're here. Look forward to seeing you at Masterful Messenger, naomiaidoo.com/masterful messenger. And look forward to you sharing what it is that you know that you want to say in the way that you want to say it with who you want to share it with. Let's do this together. Remember that the world is waiting for your work. Bye.